The box sat innocently on my kitchen counter, its worn cardboard edges mocking my need for order in my new home. I hadn't placed it there. Someone else had been in my townhouse. I'm Nora, and until 10 minutes ago, I'd been celebrating my first night in my own place, a glass of wine in hand, admiring the fresh paint and clean lines of my achievement. Now my fingers trembled as I lifted the lid. Inside, scattered photographs spilled out like accusations. My mother-in-law Margaret's face stared up at me from dozens of angles, always hovering near my husband Liam in various stages of his life. But these weren't normal family photos. In each one, she was watching him, analyzing him, her expression calculating even in frozen moments from years ago. "What are you doing?" Liam's voice made me jump. He stood in the doorway, keys still in hand from his late showing at work. "Someone left this." I held up a photo where Margaret stood between teenage Liam and what appeared to be his first girlfriend. The girl had been partially torn out of the picture. "Care to explain why your mother systematically documented every relationship you've ever had?" He crossed the room too quickly, snatching the photo. "Where did you get these?" "They were here when I got home. In our kitchen. In our new house." My voice cracked on the word "our." "There's more. Look at this one." I passed him another photo. Margaret at his college graduation, her arm locked around his, while a pretty brunette stood awkwardly to the side. That girl's face had been scratched out with what looked like a pen. "This is ridiculous," Liam said, but his face had gone pale. "These are just old photos." "Really? Then why is your mother in every single one, watching you like a hawk? And why are all your ex-girlfriends either torn out or marked through?" He started gathering the photos quickly, shoving them back in the box. "You're overreacting. Mom's just protective." "Protective?" I laughed, but it came out hollow. "Liam, someone broke into our house to leave these, the same day we moved in, the same day your mother returned from Europe. Don't start with conspiracy theories." His jaw tightened. "Margaret's been nothing but supportive of us." "To your face, maybe." I grabbed another photo before he could take it. This one showed Liam at what looked like a job interview. Margaret visible through the office window outside. "How did she even get this picture? Was she stalking you?" His phone buzzed. Margaret's name lit up the screen. "Perfect timing," I muttered. "Don't." He answered the call, turning away from me. "Hi, Mom. Yes, we're all moved in. No, you don't need to come over tonight. Tomorrow's fine." I stared at his back, at the tension in his shoulders as he spoke to her. The box of photos sat between us on the counter, like a bomb waiting to explode. When he hung up, he wouldn't meet my eyes. "She's coming over tomorrow to help us unpack." "Help us, or help you?" I picked up the box. "We need to talk about this, Liam. Really talk." "There's nothing to talk about." He reached for the box, but I pulled it away. "Those are old photos. They don't mean anything." "They mean everything." I stepped back, sheep it back, clutching the box to my chest. "Your mother has been controlling your entire life, and you're letting her, even now, even after we're married. You don't understand our family dynamic." "No, I understand it perfectly." I set the box down hard. "The question is, when will you?" He ran his hands through his hair, a gesture I'd always found endearing before. Now it just looked like surrender. "I'm going to bed. We can discuss this tomorrow." "With your mother present?" I called after him as he walked away. "Is that the only way you know how to have conversations now?" He didn't answer, and I was left alone in my new kitchen, staring at a box full of evidence that my marriage might have been doomed from the start. Tomorrow, Margaret would arrive with her perfect smile and her subtle manipulations, and Liam would pretend nothing was wrong. But something was very wrong, and for the first time since I'd met my mother-in-law, I felt the stirring of something darker than resentment, something that tasted like revenge. I heard Margaret before I saw her, the click of expensive heels on hardwood, followed by her voice floating up the stairs. "Darling, these walls are completely the wrong shade. We simply must repaint." My hands clenched around the box of kitchen supplies I'd been unpacking. It wasn't even 9 in the morning. Mom, we just painted yesterday, Liam said, his voice carrying that familiar note of weary acceptance. Beige is so common. I'm thinking a lovely sage green. Henry, call that painter we used for the summer house. I descended the stairs to find Margaret already directing her husband to rearrange my carefully placed furniture. She wore pearls to help unpack boxes. Of course she did. Good morning, I said, forcing brightness into my voice. The box of photos from last night felt like a weight in my stomach. Oh, Nora dear. Margaret's smile didn't reach her eyes. I took the liberty of bringing some proper window treatments. These blinds are absolutely tragic. The blinds are fine, I said, setting down my box. We chose them together, remember? Did we? She tilted her head. Liam, darling, help your father with that bookcase. It's completely overwhelming the space there. I watched my husband comply without hesitation, just as he had for the past 28 years. The photos upstairs suddenly made even more sense. My phone buzzed, a text from Emily. Lunch today? You seem off lately. Before I could reply, Margaret was at my elbow. I've taken the liberty of rearranging your kitchen cabinets. The flow was all wrong, dear. You what? I pushed past hers into the kitchen. Every cabinet stood open, their contents scattered across my counters. The organized system I'd spent hours creating was destroyed. Much better to have the glasses near the sink, she continued, following me. And really, dear, these mismatched mugs must go. I know the perfect set from that lovely shop in… Stop. My voice came out sharper than I'd intended. Just stop. The kitchen fell silent. Even the sounds of furniture moving ceased. I'm only trying to help, Margaret said, her voice taking on that wounded tone I'd come to recognize as tactical. Liam, darling, your wife seems rather stressed. Nora? Liam appeared in the doorway, concern etched on his face. For me or his mother, I couldn't tell anymore. I'm fine, I said, though my hands shook as I began returning items to their original places. I just prefer my kitchen organized my way, in my house. Our house, Margaret corrected sweetly. We're all family here. I met her gaze then, really looked at her, behind the perfect makeup and practiced smile. I saw something calculating, something that matched those surveillance photos perfectly. Emily's waiting for me, I said abruptly, grabbing my purse. I need some air. But we've only just started helping, Margaret protested. There's so much to do. These cabinets, the walls, those ghastly curtains. Let her go, Mom, Liam said quietly. We can handle things here. The last thing I saw as I left was Margaret's hand on Liam's arm, proprietary and familiar, while she directed Henry to take down my framed nursing degree. It's much too prominent there, dear. I made it halfway down the block before my phone rang. Liam, where are you going? He asked, his voice low. Mom's trying to help. No, she's trying to control, just like she always has. I stopped walking. Did you know she reorganized our entire kitchen while we slept? She means well. Does she? Those photos? Not this again. Yes, this again. A passing neighbor startled at my outburst. I lowered my voice. Your mother broke into our house, Liam. She's marking her territory like some kind of… I have to go. He cut me off. Mom's calling. Just try to be more grateful, okay? She's giving up her whole day to help us settle in. The line went dead. I stood there, staring at my phone, fury building in my chest. Through our front window, I could see Margaret directing her one-woman show, dismantling my home piece by piece, while my husband helped her do it. My phone buzzed again. Emily, you okay? Still on for lunch? I watched Margaret hold up one of my throw pillows with obvious distaste. Something cold and certain settled in my chest as I typed my reply. Definitely. I need your help with something. The time for being grateful was over. Margaret wanted to play games? Fine, but she wasn't the only one who could be calculating. The envelope sat between Emily and me at lunch, its contents spread across the table, like evidence at a crime scene. More photos, more proof, this time showing Margaret at Liam's first job interview, then mysteriously at his competitor's office the next day. 2 weeks later, Liam had been passed over for the position. "This is beyond controlling," Emily said, examining a photo. "This is sabotage." "She wanted him dependent," I replied, my coffee growing cold and bitter. Every time he got close to real independence, she'd intervene. A shadow fell across our table. "Interesting collection you have there." I looked up to find a man studying the photos with unusual interest. He was well-dressed, maybe early 30s, with the kind of smile that suggested he knew more than he was saying. "Private conversation," Emily said sharply. "Derek Hall," he introduced himself, pulling up a chair uninvited. "I live next door to you, Nora, and I think we might have a mutual interest in Margaret Anderson then." My spine stiffened. "You know Margaret?" "Let's say I've had the displeasure." He picked up one of the photos, though these are new to me. "She's thorough, isn't she?" Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. Margaret's name flashed on the screen. "Nora, dear, we simply must discuss the dinner party tonight. The caterer needs final numbers." "What dinner party?" "The housewarming, of course. I've invited all the important people from the neighborhood. We can't have you and Liam living here without proper introductions." My fingers tightened around the phone. "You planned a party at my house without asking me?" "Our house, dear. Family takes care of family." Her voice dripped honey-coated poison. "Liam's already approved the guest list." Of course he had. "I have to work tonight," I lied. "I'm on call." "Oh, I took care of that. I spoke with Dr. Morris. Such a dear friend. And he's adjusted your schedule. See you at 7. The line went dead. I stared at Emily and Derek, fury building in my chest. "She's throwing a party at my house tonight," I said. "She called my supervisor to change my schedule." Derek's smile turned sharp. "Perfect opportunity." "For what?" "To start fighting back." He pulled out his phone, showing me a photo of his own. Margaret at some society event, her mask of perfection slipping as she berated a server. "I've been collecting evidence of my own. Tonight could be interesting if we work together." Emily touched my arm. "Nora, be careful. We don't know him." "No," I agreed, studying Derek's face. "But he knows Margaret. Tell me more." The next few hours passed in a blur of preparation. When I returned home, Margaret had transformed my living room into a showcase of her taste. My photos were gone, replaced by abstract art. Crystal glasses sparkled on rented tables. "There you are." Margaret swept forward. "Quick, change into this." She thrust a garment bag at me. "The blue dress you planned simply won't do." I took the bag without opening it. "How did you get in?" "Liam gave me a key naturally, for emergencies." "Ah." She adjusted a flower arrangement. "Henry, those candles are all wrong. Space them wider." I watched her husband comply silently, just like Liam always did, just like I was expected to do. "Actually," I said, "I think I'll wear what I planned." Margaret's smile flickered. "Don't be difficult, dear. First impressions are everything." "Yes," I agreed, thinking of Derek's photos, of the evidence upstairs, of every small rebellion I'd swallowed. "They certainly are." The doorbell rang. Margaret brightened. "Our first guests, do fix your hair, dear. And remember, family presence, a united front." As she glided away, I caught my reflection in her perfectly pleated mirror. I barely recognized myself. The woman staring back had something hard in her eyes, something that matched the cold certainty in my chest. Tonight would indeed be interesting. Derek was right. It was time to fight back. And Margaret had just handed me the perfect stage for Act 1. I heard her laughing with the arriving guests, playing her role of devoted mother-in-law. Let her laugh. By the end of tonight, we'd see who was really in control of this house, and this time I had proof of exactly who Margaret Anderson really was. The housewarming party had become a war room. Emily, Derek, and I huddled in my bedroom, while Margaret's laughter drifted up from below, a sound as artificial as everything else about her. "These should do it," Derek said, spreading more photos across my bed. "Margaret's greatest hits. The question is, how do we want to play this?" I picked up one, showing Margaret cornering Liam's former girlfriend at a charity event. The girl's mascara ran in dark streaks down her face. "Where did you get these?" Let's say I've been collecting evidence for a while. Derek's smile didn't quite reach his eyes. Margaret has a way of making enemies. Emily touched my arm. Nora, are you sure about this? Once we start, there's no going back. A burst of laughter from downstairs made me flinch. Margaret's voice carried clearly. Of course, Liam and I always make these decisions together. Nora's still learning how our family works. My fingers clenched around the photo. I'm sure. We moved through the party like shadows, planting photos where they'd be found, tucked into napkins, slipped between coffee table books, hidden in powder room hand towels. Each image told its own story of Margaret's manipulation. Nora, Margaret's voice froze me in place. Come meet the Harrises. They're just dying to hear about your nursing career. The way she said nursing made it sound like I collected garbage for a living. I turned to find her holding court in my living room, Liam at her side, like a well-trained pet. Actually, I said, I'd love to hear more about your time in Europe, Margaret. You left rather suddenly, didn't you? Her smile flickered. Behind her, Derek raised an eyebrow, a silent question. I gave him a slight nod. Oh, you know how these things are. Margaret waved dismissively. Business called Henry home. Funny, Derek stepped forward. I heard it had something to do with a certain hospital board member's wife. The crystal glass in Margaret's hand just trembled slightly. I'm sorry, I don't believe we've met. Derek Hall. I used to work for Dr. Richardson before the incident. The color drained from Margaret's face. Liam looked between them, confusion creasing his brow. Mom, what's he talking about? Nothing, darling, just a misunderstanding. She turned to the gathered guests. Who needs a refill? But the damage was done. I watched guests pulling out photos, whispers spreading like poison through the crowd. Margaret's carefully constructed image began to crack. What are these? Someone held up a photo of Margaret following Liam to job interviews. Another guest found the picture of her confronting his ex-girlfriend. Liam grabbed one of the photos. Mom, what? Why were you there? I was protecting you, Margaret's voice rose. Everything I've done has been to protect you. By sabotaging my career, my relationships. The party had gone silent. Even Henry looked uncomfortable, shifting away from his wife. You don't understand, Margaret reached for Liam. You've always needed my guidance. Look how well you've done with my help. Help? I stepped forward. You mean control, manipulation, destroying anything that threatened your hold over him. You ungrateful little... Margaret caught herself, aware of her audience. Liam, darling, don't let her poison you against me. Everything I've done has been for your own good. But Liam was staring at the photos, years of manipulation laid bare in his hands. Did you really get Sarah fired from her job so she'd have to move away? She wasn't right for you. That wasn't your decision to make. The satisfaction I'd expected to feel turned hollow as I watched Liam's world unravel. This was what I wanted, wasn't it? But something in Derek's satisfied smile made me uneasy. I think, Derek said quietly, there's more your son should know about your time in Europe, Margaret. She whirled on him. Who are you really? Someone who's been waiting a very long time for this moment. The look that passed between them sent a chill down my spine. I'd thought I was the one orchestrating this revenge, but suddenly I wasn't so sure. What exactly had I set in motion? The morning after the party, I found Derek waiting on my doorstep. Dark circles under his eyes matched my own sleepless night. We need to talk, he said, glancing over his shoulder. Not here. I followed him to his house, where files and photos covered every surface of his living room. Not just photos of Margaret with Liam, but older ones. Margaret at hospitals, at board meetings, always lurking, always watching. What is all this? 20 years of Margaret Anderson's greatest hits. He handed me a newspaper clipping. Remember that hospital board member I mentioned? His wife didn't just leave him, she died. My hands went cold. What are you saying? Nothing can be proved, of course. Margaret's too careful for that. He picked up another file, but patterns emerge. People who oppose her tend to lose everything. Some just disappear. A knock at the door made us both jump. Emily stood there, pale-faced. Nora, you need to come home, now. I returned to find Liam packing a suitcase. What are you doing? Moving to my parents'. Mom's had some kind of breakdown. He wouldn't look at me. After what I did you even look at those photos? I saw enough to know my Jimmy conspired with strangers to humiliate my mother. Now he did look at me, and I barely recognized him. She's in the hospital, Nora. Anxiety attack. Dad says she keeps talking about someone named Richardson. Derek's words echoed in my head. Dead, a dead wife, patterns of destruction. Liam, wait, there's more you need to know. I don't want to know more. He slammed the suitcase shut. I trusted you. Instead of talking to me, you plotted with the neighbors to destroy my family. She was destroying us first. No, you did that, all by yourself. He headed for the door. Mom's right. You never understood how our family works. Your mother's been lying to you your whole life. He paused at the threshold. At least she never betrayed me. After he left, I stood in our bedroom, shaking. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Careful, dear. The thing about patterns is they tend to repeat. I deleted it, but another came immediately. Ask Derek about his sister. Some secrets are better left buried. Emily called next. Nora, something's wrong. I just got fired. They said there were complaints about drug discrepancies, but It's Margaret. I cut her off. She's retaliating. How could she? She's in the hospital. That's never stopped her before. I grabbed my keys. Meet me at Derek's. We need to. A crash downstairs cut me off. I crept to the landing, peering down into the darkness. Henry stood in my living room, looking more animated than I'd ever seen him. You've made a terrible mistake, he said quietly. You have no idea what she's capable of. I'm learning. No, you're not. He placed something on my coffee table. This isn't a game, Nora. Margaret doesn't just destroy careers or marriages, she destroys lives. Is that a threat? A warning from someone who's watched her work for 30 years. He moved toward the door. Ask Derek about Richardson's wife. Ask him what really happened in Europe. After he left, I approached the coffee table. A single photo lay there. Derek, years younger, standing with a woman who looked remarkably like him. His sister, I assumed. Half the photo was burned away, her face partially melted into darkness. My phone buzzed again. Margaret. Family protects family, dear, even from themselves. I sank onto the couch, the burned photo in my lap. I'd wanted revenge, wanted to expose Margaret's manipulation. Instead, I'd stumbled into something darker, something that made my simple plan for vengeance seem naive. Derek's words came back to me. Patterns emerge. I looked at the burned photo again, at the sister who'd disappeared into darkness, and wondered if I was following the same pattern. If Margaret wasn't just destroying my marriage, but leading me down a path others had traveled before. A path that ended in destruction. My phone buzzed one final time. Derek, don't trust anyone, especially me. I stared at his message, the burned photo heavy in my hands, and realized I'd started a war without understanding the true enemy, or the casualties it would claim. The hospital corridor stretched before me like a threat. Margaret's room was at the end, but I wasn't here to visit. I was here to end this. Mrs. Anderson is resting, the nurse said, but I saw the flicker of recognition in her eyes. Emily's replacement, no doubt, personally selected by Margaret. I'm family. The lie tasted bitter. Margaret lay propped against pillows, looking frailer than I'd expected, but her eyes were sharp as ever. I wondered when you'd come. I closed the door behind me. Where's Liam? Getting coffee. He's barely left my side since your little performance. She adjusted her blanket with practiced vulnerability. Did you enjoy it? Destroying our family. You destroyed it long before I arrived. I pulled out my phone, showing her the photo of Derek's sister. Just like you destroyed others. Something dark flickered across her face. Careful, dear. Some doors shouldn't be opened. Like the door to Dr. Richardson's office the night his wife died. She didn't flinch. Accidents happen. And Derek's sister, was she an accident too? Derek should have learned from his sister's mistakes. Margaret's mask slipped, revealing something cold beneath. Just like you should learn from yours. My phone buzzed. A text from Emily. They're pressing charges. Drug theft. I could lose my license. Another message followed immediately. My car's brakes failed on the highway. I'm okay, but the police say it was tampered with. Amazing how quickly life can unravel, Margaret said, watching my face. Careers, relationships, even break lines. You're threatening my friend. I'm protecting my family, like always. She leaned forward. Did Derek tell you why his sister really disappeared? What she discovered about her precious brother? The door opened. Liam stood there, coffee forgotten in his hand. Nora, what are you doing here? Ask her about Derek, Margaret said quickly. Ask her what she's been plotting with him. I'm not plotting anything. Show him your phone, dear. The messages, the plans. Margaret's voice turned soothing. Show him how you and Derek schemed to destroy our family. My hands shook as Liam took my phone. His face hardened as he read. This whole time, he said quietly. You've been working with him? It's not what you think. Derek Richardson, Margaret cut in. The man whose sister tried to expose his criminal activities before she vanished. The man who's been using you to get to me because I caught him embezzling from the hospital board. The floor seemed to tilt beneath me. What? Check his house, Margaret told Liam. The evidence is all there, every photo, every document, all fabricated to manipulate your wife into helping him take revenge on me for exposing his crimes. My phone buzzed again. Derek, don't trust her. Meet me now. I can explain everything. But Liam saw the message. You're still conspiring with him, even now? I'm trying to protect us. By working with a criminal, by destroying our family. Margaret reached for his hand. She never understood us, darling. How we protect each other. I backed toward the door. Liam, please, just listen. Security, Margaret called softly. I believe my daughter-in-law needs to leave. 2 guards appeared instantly. More of Margaret's pawns, no doubt. As they escorted me out, I heard Liam's voice. I want a divorce. In the parking lot, my phone exploded with notifications. My supervisor, immediate suspension pending investigation of narcotic discrepancies. My bank, accounts frozen due to suspicious activity. My landlord, eviction notice for lease violations. Derek waited by my car. We needed to go, now. You used me, I said boldly. This whole time. She's lying about everything. He grabbed my arm. But we don't have time. She's already started the end game. Police sirens wailed in the distance. Growing closer. Choose now, Derek said. Trust me and run. Or stay and let her destroy you like she destroyed my sister. The sirens grew louder. Through the hospital window, I could see Margaret holding Liam, her triumphant smile visible even from here. She'd won. She'd taken everything. Unless... Tell me about your sister, I said. Tell me the truth. Derek's grip tightened. Get in the car, Nora. It's your only chance. The sirens were almost here. I had seconds to decide. Trust the man who might have used me, or face the woman who definitely destroyed me. Either way, I was already lost. The motel room smelled of desperation and cheap coffee. Derek paced while I sat on the bed, reading his sister's journal for the 3rd time. Now you understand, he said. I understand you lied. I closed the journal. Your sister didn't disappear investigating Margaret. She disappeared investigating you. He stopped pacing. That's what Margaret wants you to think. It's right here, in her own words. I held up the journal. She found evidence of your embezzlement. She was going to expose you, not Margaret. You're reading it wrong. Am I? Because Margaret's story suddenly makes a lot more sense. I stood up. You needed someone to take her down before she could testify against you. So you found me, angry, vulnerable, the perfect puppet. His face hardened. You don't know what you're talking about. My phone buzzed. Emily. Police found evidence at Derek's house. Get out now. Your sister didn't vanish, they said, but you killed her. He moved faster than I expected. His hand wrapped around my throat, backing me against the wall. You're just like Margaret, seeing what you want to see. Let her go, Derek. Henry stood in the doorway, gun steady in his hands. Behind him, Emily appeared with 2 police officers. It's over, Henry said. We found Rachel's body. Derek's grip tightened. Margaret killed her. She ruins everyone. We found the transfer records. Emily cut in. I'm thin. The money you stole. The fake evidence you planted. Margaret caught you stealing from the hospital. Rachel was going to testify. You don't understand. Derek's voice cracked. Margaret protected you, Henry. But she destroyed me. Everything I built. You destroyed yourself, I gasped. Just like I almost destroyed myself letting you manipulate me. His other hand went to his pocket. Something metallic glinted. The gunshot was deafening. Derek crumpled, Henry's bullet in his shoulder. As the police rushed in, my phone buzzed again. Margaret, come alone. Time to finish this. I found her in my townhouse, sitting in the dark living room, like she belonged there. I wondered who would figure it out first, she said. You or Derek? You knew, this whole time, you knew what he'd done. I knew he'd try to use you against me, just like I knew you'd eventually see through him. She smiled. We're very alike, you and I. I'm nothing like you. No, we both recognize threats to our family. We both eliminate them. She stood. The only difference is, I succeed. By destroying everyone around you. By controlling Liam's entire life. By protecting him. From people like Derek. People like you. I love him. Love isn't enough. Family is everything. Her voice softened. You could have been part of it, Nora, if you'd only understood the rules. Your rules. Your control. My protection. She moved closer. Even now, I'm protecting Liam. From the pain of choosing. From the weakness of loving someone who'd destroy his family. By destroying me instead, you destroyed yourself. Just like Derek. Just like everyone who threatens what's mine. Headlights swept across the room. Car doors slammed outside. That'll be Liam, Margaret said. Coming to sign the divorce papers. A clean break, that's best. Did you give Rachel a clean break too? Her smile faltered. I gave her a choice. The same choice I'm giving you now. She pulled out an envelope. Sign these, disappear, and keep your career. Fight me and lose everything. I thought of Derek, bleeding in that motel room. Of his sister, who died trying to expose the truth. Of Emily, whose career nearly ended because of my revenge. You're right, I said, taking the envelope. We are alike. Her smile returned. We both think we're protecting someone, I continued, but we're really just destroying ourselves. I tore the envelope in half. Wrong choice, she said softly. No, Liam's voice came from the doorway. Right choice. Margaret turned. Darling, I heard everything, Mom. He stepped into the light, phone recording in his hand. Every confession, every threat. For the first time I saw real fear in Margaret's eyes. Family protects family, I said. But real protection doesn't destroy, it builds. As the police entered behind Liam, Margaret's perfect mask finally cracked. And in that moment, I saw my own reflection in her shattered expression. A warning of what I could have become, what revenge almost made me. I sat across from Margaret in the prison visiting room, studying the woman who'd nearly destroyed everything. Her perfect makeup couldn't hide the cracks anymore. Come to gloat? She asked. No. I placed Rachel's journal on the table between us. I came to understand. She touched the journal's worn cover. Derek's sister. She was like you. Thought she could save everyone. She tried to stop her brother from stealing. You could have helped her. I gave her the same choice I gave you. Margaret's fingers traced the journal's edges. She chose wrong. Like mother, like son, I said. You and Derek, both destroying people to protect your secrets. I protected my family. You controlled them. There's a difference. She looked up sharply. Is there? Look how far you went trying to protect your marriage. The lies, the manipulation. You became me. The truth of her words stung. Maybe, but I stopped. Because you won. Her smile was bitter. Easy to be righteous from the victory circle. I stood to leave, but her voice stopped me. How is he? Liam's healing, I said, without you. He'll come back. He always does. No, I turned back. Your control ended the day you chose power over love. Her mask slipped. For a moment, I saw something raw beneath. A mother who'd lost everything trying to keep it. You think you're different, she said softly. but I see it in your eyes. The same need to control, to protect, to win at any cost. That's why I'm here. I pushed the journal toward her, to remember what that cost looks like. Outside, Liam waited by the car. Did you get what you needed? I took his hand, feeling the wedding ring he'd chosen to keep wearing. I think I finally understand her, and myself. That evening, Emily came over with takeout and wine. We sat in my redecorated living room, all traces of Margaret's influence erased. The hospital board cleared my record, she said, thanks to Henry's testimony. And Derek? Pleaded guilty. They found Rachel's body where he said it would be. She studied her glass. You never told me why you visited Margaret. I thought of Margaret's words about control, about protection, about the fine line between love and possession. To make sure I never become her, I said. You wouldn't. I almost did. I touched the journal on my coffee table. Everything I did to expose her, I did for the right reasons. But somewhere along the way, revenge became more important than justice. But you stopped, because I saw myself in her, that same need to control everything, to win at any cost. I picked up the journal. Rachel saw it in Derek too. That's why she tried to stop him. What will you do with it? I stood walking to the fireplace. Let it go, said. The journal caught quickly, pages curling into ash. As it burned, I thought of Margaret in her cell, of Derek facing justice, of Liam learning to live without his mother's control. You're nothing like her, Emily said quietly. No, I agreed, because I choose to be different. Later that night, I found Liam in our bedroom, looking at old family photos. I keep searching these, he said, trying to find one real moment, one time when she loved without controlling. I sat beside him. Love and control aren't the same thing. I know that now. He set down the photos. Thanks to you. My phone buzzed. A text from Henry. Margaret's asking for you again. I turned off the phone. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new temptations to control, to protect, to win. But tonight, I chose something different. Tell me about these photos, I said to Liam. Not about her, about you. As he spoke, I watched his face light up with memories, unclouded by manipulation. This was real love, letting go, listening, allowing someone to be themselves. Margaret was wrong. Victory wasn't about control. It was about choosing to break the cycle, even when revenge felt like justice, even when protecting meant letting go.